episode of the podcast. We're actually going to call this 2.1 because we had a bit of a technical. Is the way forward. Exactly. So we've invited Lili back again today. Thank you so much, Lili, for coming in.
Great to be back.
And you look the same as last week.
I look the same, don't I?
Hair's done, makeup, the dress, and also this week. Can't wait for the weekend. We're joined by Lobito Brigante as well, who is going to be helping us talk about. We're going to recap on the tipping point, but also discuss some of the things which have been going on over the last week. I think a lot have been changing within the industry and within Dubai. So I don't know, Lobito, if you want to. In the last week? Just in the last week.
Our sort of our topic last week has already started to make a move. It's become a little bit
redundant.
Indeed,
which is why I think it's still relevant to cover this. But I mean, for those that don't know, Lobito, I'm going to give a quick intro and then Lili.
Yeah, I always hate introducing myself.
You do, but, which is why I've done it. I'm just going to pick on the spot.
You put me on the spot. So I've been here approximately 12 years.
Yeah.
I've always been involved in events. I'm well known as a DJ and turntablist, but I've also been a cultural innovator. Creating events like street nights, which were industry firsts, like first food truck festival, first street art festival. I created the world's first turntable orchestra,
which was pretty epic.
Which was very epic.
Yeah.
And I still hate talking about myself, but it was fantastic.
He's doing really well.
For someone who doesn't like it.
Yeah. So just generally try to innovate and contribute to the overall goodness.
Nice. Well, I mean, we need it right now.
Yes.
We definitely need contribution. Lili.
You're just the man we need.
Who's Lili?
Who's Lili? Just Lili.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you don't know, you should. That's pretty obvious.
I'll pay you later, Dan. God, my intro, I should have introduced first. Like, how do I follow that?
You probably don't.
I can't.
Yeah. You work in events.
Oh, God. Yes, I work in events. Have done for too many years. Well, yeah, way more than I'd like to admit to.
But you're looking good for it. I know.
So you really got to pay him. I've worked in events. I've worked sort of on the client side. I've worked agencies, and I've worked sort of one of those lucky people that got to do what I love and got to have fun doing it and got to see the world whilst doing it.
Nice.
It sounds a lot more glamorous than it is. We all know, like everyone thinks that working in Cannes.
And now we're in Dan Bolton's office.
And now we're in Dan Bolton's office.
Which is the most glamorous place you've ever been to. Like, hello, like, it's pretty cool. You've got like Fred in the corner.
Yeah, but I've been out here 10 years now.
Yeah.
So I sort of worked with some of the great agencies out here, and now I've come back to client side, back to the dark side.
Indeed.
And
recap quickly on what we talked about last week, and it came from a conversation we had like during the kind of like lockdown period where we were talking about the tipping point.
Well, we're hitting critical mass, aren't we?
Well,
something's got to give.
And you can really feel that, like you definitely feel that things are starting to change, and there's kind of a pressure building.
Well, over the last week, between when we did our podcast last week.
Well, I mean, it was a technical rehearsal. It
was the rehearsal. But we're hitting critical mass. There's going to be a tip. Now, as far as I'm concerned, it's up to us which way it's going to tip. If we sit back and we were talking about this earlier, that when this whole COVID hit, completely understandable. Overnight, our industry disappeared, and that for a lot of people was their livelihood. And their homes, their well-being, a lot of things were impacted, and some people had to leave, so it was completely understandable that it was rabbit in headlights.
Yep.
And at that point you turn in, you got to look after yourself. You can't look after the masses, you can't sort of look outwards, and I completely get that. And I think to a certain degree, because everyone didn't quite know what was going on and what to expect, we thought maybe it'll be okay. It'll be a couple of weeks, we'll tip, it'll be fine, maybe a month or two, but now it's been 2 months. More.
It's been longer. Like this started kicking off at the end of February, beginning of March was when we had the
December
first cancellation.
was when it hit China, when it started with China, and then sort of January, February it started getting a bit more of a movement, and then March is when it really hit us all and people started working from home. But now we're at a point where we can't just simply sit there. Well, we can. It's going to tip the wrong way, I think, but we're now getting to a point where it's up to us what happens with our industry. We've seen that COVID's not going away. This situation, even if COVID goes away, the impact of it is still happening. And we talked about the psychological effect of that. COVID, if tomorrow people said COVID is eradicated, it's gone. I'm not saying that that's what's going to happen, but if that happened, the psychological effect of it is still going to last a lot longer? Will people still feel safe to go out? You know?
Well, that's a good point, because, you know, we've been reinforced the message, stay home, stay safe, you know, wear a mask, wear gloves, and all of this, and keep distance from people, which is contrary to everything that we do as event professionals. Like, you know, we're supposed to bring people together.
But we can still bring people together. And that's where the tipping point sort of comes in. And I'd love your sort of input on this.
So for me, it's interesting to hear you both talk. For me, you know, everybody knows everyone's walking around outside with masks.
Yeah.
But for me, COVID is actually a giant blindfold. So, you know, people have something on their face, but the actual blindfold of it is everybody's looking at the virus, and the headlines are just pushing the virus and what's happening with the virus. There are people obsessed with spreading statistics. There are people
and not necessarily the right statistics. That's the scary part of it.
That's another issue. But we can get to that. But there's multiple layers.
First of all, I have to always put the disclaimer in, like, we're not epidemiologists.
We are
not.
Like, I always did.
I am not a doctor.
Because we always go down the rabbit hole of, like, virus, and it's like, oh, just you know, we're not a doctor.
I'm touching on it in the context of leading into our industry. So essentially, for me, it's a massive blindfold. And exactly as Lili said, it's if you removed it from the equation, what's left? So we have a looming global recession. Yeah. So it's the economic impact that really, as business people, that we really need to focus on, and then create innovative solutions on how can we get the industry moving and not basically get wrapped up in it. So I'm going to open I think the hot topic. So I saw, thanks to you, a link.
Be careful how we word this
today to
a statement. What did you see today?
A statement by the head of the Regional Events Association. Let's call him, saying that basically no vaccine, no events. So,
also, to put in the context as well, further in the discussion,
yes,
there was obviously discussion about smaller events starting and blah, 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 but the main headline was no vaccine, no event.
Well, that was how it was portrayed on the programme, and that was the statement that was issued as basically a main statement that this individual had made. Yeah. Now, the issue with that has multiple layers. So, number one, you don't understand how vaccines work. Okay, so if you
I definitely don't.
If, you know, and none of us really, but if you have even a rudimentary understanding, you understand that a vaccine, by the time a vaccine comes, industries would be decimated. So
we won't last.
Work to basically make such a negative statement, and I think having two negatives in a statement that you're making publicly is very damaging at this time. Yeah. People are looking to see, you know, a lot of people have lost their jobs, a lot of people have lost hope, a lot of people are desperately trying to find ways to feed themselves and their families. And basically it's our job as creatives to come up with creative solutions. And it's not blind optimism. There are so many countries making innovations that we can learn from. There are creative people making innovations here. So really the key to it is how do we move forward, not telling people what they can't do.
But that's what we were talking about. Like, bottom line is we're one of the most creative industries.
Yes.
Clients come to event professionals with their brief, which usually is a problem that they want us to solve. And then as event professionals, we take that brief, rewrite it in our own language, and then we come up with solutions, creative solutions that blows away our clients, and it's something that even they couldn't have imagined.
Yes.
So right now, this is just another brief. We've got our technical writer. Mm-hmm. We've been told, you know, it's got to be, you got to look at 30% capacity. You got to look at, you know, masks, sanitizing, temperature checks, all of that stuff. That's just half the brief.
Yeah.
The other half is, okay, how do you make that creative? Mm-hmm. You know, it's like you said, like you got concerts, Australia, but we were talking about it again last week about, you know, looking at drive-in concerts. Yeah. Is that the answer? Maybe, maybe not, but at least it's a creative spin as opposed to simply going, okay, 30%, because let's face it, a 30% capacity live concert. Yeah. Concerts thrive on the energy of the people there. When you're standing there because you want to hear your favorite band singing live, they feed off you, you feed off them. A big part of what makes an event successful are the people that are there and the vibe that's created. Now, if you take 70% of that out, what's left? Now, at this point in time, if that was all the options were, well, people would go. But how many more times? We were saying it, Dan, how many times would you go?
You probably go once, go and check it out. Like, I'm dying to get out of the house. And it'd be like, okay, right, I need to go somewhere. And then the second time you'd probably go and be like, okay, well, I want to do something again. But then by the third time you'd be like, it's got no atmosphere, it's got no people. Like, I'm not paying this money for it. Like,
exactly,
you
and
just
then
wouldn't want to go back.
There's a commercial consideration. It's like the people that are putting on these concerts, well, they're not going to get a discounted rate because there's only 30% of 30% capacity. It's still, it's still the same output that you've got to do. You still need the gear, you still need the talent, you still need the lighting, you still need, the logistics. None of that's going to change. That cost is still going to be there. So after a while, whether it's for a client or, a concert organizer, the money, the numbers won't make sense. That they'll sort of go, okay, well, if this is the only solution you're giving me, or if that's all there is, well, I'm better off waiting for that vaccine.
I'm going to go back to the point that Lobito was making. It's going to be quite controversial, but I think throughout... Throw it. Yeah, I just dropped that grenade. But I think throughout all of this, a lot of people are looking for leadership.
Yes.
And are looking for guidance. I feel like, as an industry, we've been kind of... we've not done ourselves a service because no one's really providing that leadership or that guidance or that positivity to be able to be like, we can find these creative solutions to a challenge. I mean, isn't that what we always do in events anyway? Like, throughout the last 10 years of the history of events, there's always been a problem that we always try to fix.
I think for me as well, having been here a long time, people often get caught up with personalities, they get caught up with people, they get caught up with cliques and politics between people.
Yeah.
So I strongly believe in a leadership of ideas. I believe in a leadership of actually just setting a good example and pushing forward, because then it removes the personal thing. Because I've seen a lot of people posturing, trying to take personal leadership positions within different sectors and industries, and I think that that is fine, but I also think that there's a lot of self-interest that I've seen in these different associations and agencies. So I think it's very important that we have a collective of like-minded individuals. If people don't want to jump on the train, that's fine. They don't
have to.
But really push forward with the ideas and then show results.
Yeah.
So working with government is step one. Because if the federal government doesn't consider it safe to run events, then we shouldn't be running events right now. It's the government's decision. The government's primary role should be to keep people safe, and they've done an exceptional job so far. So it's really who said it? Somebody, I remember someone said it's COVIDiots. There are COVIDiots out there basically who for quite some time have been kind of flaunting the rules. Now, I'm not saying that rules are not always meant to be broken, but I certainly think that there's people who've broken so many rules that it's absolutely ridiculous. You know what I mean? So it's all about operating safely. Now, within an industry and as business professionals, as event organizers, we have the responsibility of keeping people safe.
Yeah. So
we have to be the leading force in keeping people safe and showing that events can run safely, and then moving forward from there.
100%. I mean, that's what, again, it all relates back to the tipping point.
Yeah, it's the tipping point.
It's the whole reason why I had this conversation.
I'm so gutted that our episode last week was just, It
was there was some real key nuggets like we took upon that, but obviously today it's evolved and we've had a whole week of this. But we really can feel that whole tipping point now where things are starting to move quite quickly. Yeah. And it's almost like we were discussing earlier that we don't want to be in a position where we're being dictated to.
100%.
As an industry, we should be able to formulate and create ideas
think
to help drive this.
Do you honestly go 5 years down the track, 1 year down the track, and if someone told you that your industry is now going to be a virtual world, do you want to do that?
I mean, to be honest, I'd never leave the house again.
Is that what we signed up for? Absolutely not.
If it's anything like some of the stuff I've seen online recently, like I would never ever go out.
Yeah. True.
Not to watch it. Sorry, I mean I'd go out to a live event. I wouldn't stay in to watch something like what I've seen online.
100%. But like, bottom line, like even with I've been sort of looking on your page a little bit. There's a lot of passion that's coming out there.
Well, I think it needs it now.
Yeah, but it's great. But that's the point I'm trying to make. Like, what I loved about it is there is that movement. That we've got the people that are going to help us tip the right way. The interview this morning, I think it's actually helped in the favor of being able to start that tip. The tip that people are going, hold on a minute, that's not what we want. No, I don't want to wait for a vaccine. That's the wrong attitude to have. That's brilliant. That's the movement that we want. So I think today we sort of put it out there, like we said last week. There's people out there that want to join. They want to join and they want to come together and band together and help redefine and reimagine the event industry. So let's do it.
Look, put it this way, just to kind of close off this vaccine issue. Government offices are not waiting for a vaccine. Government offices are reopening.
50% in and 100% by the 14th of June.
By the 14th of June. Mm-hmm. So a vaccine will not be ready by the 14th of June. So government offices are not waiting for a vaccine. Airports will not wait for vaccines.
I was a little bit surprised.
Other industries are not going to wait for a vaccine.
Yeah.
So it's really about when it is safe, before there is a vaccine, and how things are progressing on the medical side, which they are progressing. Otherwise, the government would not be opening things up.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, like the economics play an important part. Like, we need to get the economy moving and people need to get back to work. You know, it's very difficult as a small business to be able to like pay people right now when there's no income coming in. Yeah. Like, how do you see like events restarting, I suppose? Because it's never going to wait for a vaccine. Like, going back to that point, they can start and they should start small and controlled and working with government entities and being able to actually deliver something which makes people comfortable.
The key is it's got to be creative.
Well, that's
it. You know what I mean? It can't just be in line with the technical writer, as we said. It's got to be creative. It's got to have that innovation, or not. We may as well wait. Do you know what I mean? As I said, if all we're going to do is keep events the way they are, reduce it by 30%, still have the same cost of output to deliver it, it doesn't make sense. But if you then come back and go, I don't know, how do I get the 30 exhibitions? How do I reimagine that?
Yeah.
It's in an exhibition hall. Okay, and we've usually, traditionally, it's an exhibition stand right next to each other, back to back, and then people come in and come out. Well, reimagine that. Yeah. It's not hard to reimagine. It just takes someone to sit down and do it. And I've worked with some incredible creatives, and just listening to your sort of background, I'm like, here you go, here's the brief, give me the solution, done. And push the envelope. So what I think would be great to do, and we've talked about this again, is let's put a call out there to all the Mavericks. Get people on board. There's so many people that are willing to come on board, give their time. I get people have lost jobs, but if you tell them, okay, well, we want to make sure you come back, and we're willing to fight for that. Yeah. We're absolutely willing to fight for that. That's why we're all here. So let's put it out there. Let's write the brief. Let's look at, okay, well, how do we see a live event reimagined? How do we see an exhibition reimagined? How do we see an award ceremony reimagined? How do we see, a launch reimagined? We start off with those sort of basic ones, top line, and sort of come up with the creatives, and not worry about, which agency did it or which supplier and all of that. Because if we look at it that way, we're just going to be fighting internally. This is an event industry brief. And the agency is all of us, because if we come together and we find the solutions, then we're making sure that tomorrow we still have an industry that we love to get up and work and stand 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning, delirious and just laughing, giddy, but being so incredibly proud of what we've created. Like that's the future I want. That's the tipping point I want, not the one that says it's going to disappear.
I think we need to start fighting for that. I think there's far too many.
Let's call out.
Too many challenges.
Honestly, guys, the industry is not going anywhere.
No.
This is, it's always hard for people to see outside of the situation that they're in, and things are going to change in ways that we can't even anticipate from this discussion. I mean, I was part of a talk just before the first lockdown, just when things started to get cancelled. And it was just when I think Abu Dhabi had stopped all activity at nightclubs. And I was on a panel, and there were people who literally just assumed that everything was going to continue as normal. And I was trying, it's not a case of I told you so, but I was trying to say, okay, that lockdown's happened. What if we have lockdowns here? Yeah. What are you going to do? How are you going to adapt? Yeah. And I think it's very important, and I think the creatives really need to drive innovation, because we can actually at least show a path or offer some kind of solutions for people to wake up and maybe change their present situation instead of keeping their heads buried in the sand.
Well, build it, they will come. Yeah. And I think that's sort of the right attitude to have. And, I'm seeing so many people ready to step up. So many people. And I'm like, well, now we need to create a platform for that. So let's create that platform. a call out. Put it on.
We're going to do it. We're going to figure it out. We'll do a call to action.
We'll do
get
a call
people
to
involved.
action. Get people involved. Who wants to be part of the solution?
Let's
define our own future.
I mean, some of the things which you pointed out earlier is like, we need to throw down the gauntlet.
Oh, God,
like, it's time now. We've reached that tipping point. We need to tip it down, and we need to start fighting for our industry. And we need to call upon the Mavericks. I think a lot of people need to step up now and to really help lead this and to drive this and to show people why we still need an events industry and why we can get people confident and comfortable to come to our events. And then something which I want to touch upon quickly, that you mentioned last week, which is a good way to end it, is, you said we are delivering the event of our lives. If we don't deliver this event, we just don't have an industry.
We don't. We'll have some sort of a semblance of an industry, but it's not
going to be online, it'll be on Zoom.
we want it. I want the industry that I love to continue and to become even greater, and to like when I started in the industry, I was working for a convention bureau, and their job is to win events for their city, meetings, incentives, conferences, and exhibitions. And it was when September 11 hit. That's how I came into the industry. So I watched that. We went through that, and I remember at the time I sat with my mentor going, "Well, that's it. It's all going to become virtual, or it's all over. My career is dead before it even started." And he just looked at me very confidently, and he said, "Listen, face to face, we'll never stop."
That's true.
It's in our DNA. Like, look at it now. If you were told that your future is to be isolated, that's the life that you're going to live moving forward, that's the new normal, I can't see many people being happy with that.
It's definitely not my normal.
It's not the normal we want. If you had the choice, it's not the normal we'd want.
And now we need to start fighting for it.
We came back from September 11. We've come back from swine flu. We've come back from mad cow.
There's always a drama.
There's always a drama. There were the bushfires in Australia. Like it got decimated in December. Australia's been hit one after the other. And I recently saw that there's locusts now. What next? And we're still we're still here.
Guys, I'm getting shouted at by producer Ryan.
I'm so sorry.
Guys, thank you so much. I mean, these podcasts are going to continue, and we're going to try and make them, at least make sure we got relevant content every single week and bring on guests. First of all, thank you to Ryan for all of the help. Hopefully there was no technical issues this week. To the guys at Platinum List as well for supporting. I want to make sure that, we put the Mavericks on notice that we need you. We want your help. And we're going to be touching base with people to do some really cool stuff and to really drive our industry forward. Yeah. Guys, thank you so much. Innovation.
Innovation.
Guys, thank you so much. Have a good weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.